Hey everyone, I'm the co-director of Universal News Frontier, and welcome to this explainer. Today we need to talk about a massive, fundamental shift happening right now in the AI economy. We are finally moving away from the era of unchecked hype, endless promises, and infinite pilot programs, and we're crashing headfirst into the hard realities of corporate balance sheets. This isn't just about the tech anymore. It's about the money, the infrastructure, and the massive pivot happening behind the scenes. So let's dive right into this.
We just set $700 billion on fire to build the future, but 90% of companies admit it hasn't actually helped them do a single thing better. Let that sink in for a second. That is a brutal realization, but it perfectly defines what analysts across Wall Street and Silicon Valley are calling the CFO Reckoning. We have completely exited the experimental honeymoon phase of generative AI. You can no longer just walk into a boardroom with a cool chatbot demo and get a blank check. We've entered an incredibly rigorous, unforgiving, show-me-the-receipts environment where every single dollar spent on compute is being hunted down for a real return on investment.
Because here's the thing, across the global economy right now, annual AI infrastructure spending, meaning the data centers, the cooling systems, the endless shipments of high-end silicon, has reached a staggering $500 billion. But when you look at the actual localized consumer and enterprise AI revenue, like the money businesses are actually making from selling AI tools to end users, it sits at just $12 billion. That is a 42-to-1 ratio. We are spending $42 on servers and chips for every single dollar we're actually making back. This isn't just a slight imbalance. It means the entire AI economy right now is essentially just tech companies selling incredibly expensive shovels to each other rather than actually finding any gold.
Part 1. The $700 billion fire. The hyperscaler arms race. Let's look at the macro view of how tech giants are currently trapped in this crazy spend capacity frenzy. The sheer scale of the jump here is honestly staggering. We're talking about the top 5 hyperscalers, companies like Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta. Back in 2025, they collectively spent a massive $380 billion on AI infrastructure. And in 2026, they are projected to almost double that, hitting somewhere between $660 and $690 billion in a single year. These companies are terrified of being left behind, so they're basically hoarding compute power. But the broader market is signaling that strategic necessity is no longer an acceptable excuse for just burning cash. Tech giants can't just double their spending without dire consequences to their stock prices if they don't have a solid plan to earn it all back.
Part 2, the CFO Reckoning. Show me the receipts. Because of this spending frenzy, the people actually holding the purse strings, the chief financial officers, are finally stepping in, and the Q1 2026 earnings reactions brilliantly illustrate exactly what happens when investors demand proof. Alphabet saw a 10% jump because they actually had the receipts, specifically a massive $460 billion cloud backlog. That proves their colossal infrastructure spending is directly tied to future contracted revenue from existing clients. Meta, on the other hand, got hit with an 8.6% drop. Why? Because they're building hyperscaler-level infrastructure primarily for internal ad optimization, without a secured third-party revenue stream to justify the cost to shareholders. And then you have Microsoft, dropping almost 4% because of constrained capacity fears. They have the demand, but physically cannot build data centers fast enough. Investors are aggressively stress-testing every single company's ability to actually monetize their hardware.
So what is happening inside the average non-tech company trying to actually use this AI? Well, it's not pretty. There is currently an 80.3% failure rate for enterprise AI pilot projects, and the culprit is mostly internal friction. Honestly, if you've tried implementing AI at your job, you probably know exactly what this feels like. 85% of projects fail because of poor, fragmented data. You just can't train a world-class model on messy, unorganized spreadsheets. 84% fail because leadership never defined clear success metrics before starting. They kind of just bought the AI because it sounded cool. Add in massive cost overruns where compute bills end up 50% higher than expected, and the infamous scalability trap where a demo looks fantastic in a controlled sandbox, but instantly breaks when you connect it to a company's 20-year-old legacy system. The crucial takeaway is this. 42% of companies completely abandoned their AI initiatives in 2025, and it cost them an average of $7.2 million per sunk project.
Part 3. Hitting the gigawatt ceiling, the physical roadblock.
Let's shift the narrative from software limitations to the physical world. Now, this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. 50 gigawatts. That is the staggering amount of power that U.S. data centers alone will demand by the year 2028. To put that in perspective, 50 gigawatts is enough electricity to power the entire state of California, or multiple New York cities running simultaneously, 24/7, just to keep servers cool and calculating. We are talking about roughly half of the total growth in domestic power demand being swallowed up entirely by AI infrastructure.
Elon Musk recently warned that the industry will soon be producing more chips than we can physically turn on. The bottleneck is no longer silicon, it's electricity. So the strategy at the highest levels of tech is fundamentally shifting. The old game was just procuring GPUs and expanding software capabilities. The new strategy? Bring your own power. Tech giants are realizing that energy contracts are now vastly more valuable than silicon. It's wild to think about, but tech giants are essentially having to become energy companies. They're pouring billions into off-grid small modular reactors, yes, we're talking private nuclear power plants, and massive natural gas microgrids, just to ensure they have the uninterrupted electricity needed to keep their mega data centers running without completely crashing the local public grid.
Part 4. The Startup Purge, the Great Venture Bifurcation.
While the tech giants battle it out over power grids, a massive speculative bubble is bursting in the pre-IPO startup space. In Q1 2026, 65% of all global venture investment, a staggering $188 billion, was concentrated in just 4 companies: OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, and Waymo. That leaves a measly 35% to be fought over by literally every other AI startup on the entire planet. This is the absolute definition of a flight to quality. Capital is abandoning average, everyday founders because AI is turning out to be a ruthless winner-takes-most game. If you aren't building a foundational, frontier model with billions in backing, venture capitalists are really no longer interested in funding your wrapper application.
Because of this dramatic startup purge, a lot of people are naturally comparing today to the year 2000. But the reality is actually quite different. The 2000.com crash was built on unprofitable startups, speculative debt, and internet infrastructure that literally didn't even exist yet. The 2026 AI boom is a completely different beast. It's being led by highly profitable S&P 500 giants like Microsoft and Alphabet, who are financing these massive data center builds through their own existing massive free cash flow. So what should you take away from this? While startup valuations in the AI space are definitely pretty bubblicious right now, and a localized crash for small founders is absolutely coming, the broader market foundation driving this technology is incredibly robust compared to the late 90s.
Part 5. The Agentic Future. Predictions and Real-World ROI. So out of all this chaos, who's actually winning? Well, the companies extracting massive value today are treating AI as a total organizational transformation, not just some software patch you install and forget about. Look at JP Morgan. Their COIN system autonomously extracts critical data from complex commercial credit agreements. That single system is saving them 360,000 lawyer hours every single year. Imagine the cost savings there. Or take Walmart, who's using autonomous AI orchestration to predict hyper-local order patterns from millions of customers. That's added an estimated $2.1 billion in annual revenue through perfectly optimized inventory. When AI is applied to high-volume, highly repetitive cognitive and logistical tasks, the returns aren't just good, they are absolutely massive. So where does this leave us for the rest of the year? If history is any guide, I'd expect to see 3 harsh realities play out. First up, the Great Startup Purge. 99% of AI startups without clear, contractually secured revenue models will simply collapse by year-end as exorbitant compute costs completely drown them. Second, the energy pivot. Watch for major tech firms to effectively reclassify themselves, legally and structurally, as energy companies as they build private power grids to escape that gigawatt ceiling we talked about. And third, the shift to token-based economies. We're going to see service firms, like legal and accounting agencies, move away from hourly to human billing entirely. Instead, they'll pivot to an agent-as-a-service model, charging clients by the volume of computational tokens consumed by the AI to solve their problems. So here is the question I want to leave you with today. With 80% of corporate AI projects currently failing to deliver and our power grids being pushed to their absolute limits, is big tech building a seamless digital utopia, or are they just setting fire to $700 billion to build the world's most expensive ghost town of unused compute power? What is your specific prediction for the next 12 months? I'd love to hear it, so let's argue about it in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.
An investment in knowledge pays the best interest, so why not invest in this channel? Click like and subscribe for more.